हां.
We are passing underneath the
हे ब्रिज आपण ब्रिजच्या
Michigan
खालनं
Avenue
चाललो.
DuSable Bridge. On the other side of this bridge is the second tallest building in our skyline. It is, of course, the Trump International
बघा किती
Hotel and Tower,
Chicagoचं
completed in
सुंदर असं
2009, designed by another
Chicago
Chicagoan, this time a man
सुंदर
called
असं
Adrian
Chicago.
Smith.
मस्त
This
बघा वरून
example
गाड्या
of
चालले
Smith's work is not his most
तिसरा
famous.
ब्रिज चालू
He
झाला आहे
designed the Burj Khalifa, the current world's tallest building in Dubai. This building is actually a really good example of contextualism. It's a style that seeks to flatter its context. As an example, you see it has 3 distinct patio
सुंदर असं
setbacks.
Chicago आहे.
Each one of these setbacks is at a very specific height. First one, right here, is the same height as its neighbor, the Wrigley Building. The second setback, that one, is the same height as Mather Tower, which is the tallest of these 4 buildings that are all squished together immediately across the river. And the third and tallest setback, that one is the same height as its neighbor on the other side, this black box tower called the AMA Plaza. So it is
किती सुंदर
contextualizing
असू
its
दे आपण आपल्या
surroundings.
इंडियातल्या गेट ऑफ इंडिया सारखं नाही
Now next door we've got some modernism. This is the AMA Plaza. This one was completed
India
by
to India.
Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. Mies van der Rohe is a very influential architect. He is considered the father of modernism, but more specifically, black box modernism. Black box modernism, name checks out. Now Mies van der Rohe, he was part of the Bauhaus school, and he really championed the idea of design as purely purpose-driven. We're going to talk more about Mies van der Rohe and the black box modernism style. We're going to do that later, because right now we have to talk about these corny cobs on our right. These 2 wacky corny cob towers are part of a complex called Marina City. Marina City was completed in 1967 by Bertrand Goldberg, an architect and a social scientist. And he wanted Marina City to be a city within a city. So a place where residents could live, work, be entertained, all within one complex. And his goal was to attract more residents to the city center, because at the time this river stunk really bad. Nobody wanted to live downtown, and Goldberg wanted to change that. He also totally rejected the black boxes and right angles that were really popular at the time in favor of organic shapes. This guy is even quoted to say, "There are no right angles in nature, so you will find no right angles in my building." A very sexy quotation from Bertrand Goldberg appears to be true. All of the apartment units are shaped like flower petals, which is adorable. And within the complex, we have a hotel, a theater, shopping, restaurants, daycare center, bowling alley, gym, ice skating rink, movie theater, plenty of valet parking, and of course a marina underneath. So only the essentials for your average Chicagoan. That's a joke. Those are luxury amenities. But some of them have become common nowadays, like parking or a gym. If you really enjoy having those things in your apartment building, you might need to thank Marina City. Marina City was one of the very first to include them. Let's hop over to the left side of the river. Up ahead on our left is a blue reflective tower that has cutouts snaking all the way up to the top. This is 111 West Wacker. It's had a pretty crazy journey. Construction on 111 started prior to the financial crisis of 2008. It only made it up a third of its projected 90 floors before construction had to stop. But then, in 2012, new developers took over this halted project, and they decided to keep the original stopping point. They kept it in the form of that first cutout on the front facade of the building. Another great look at it on the other side of the bridge. It's the one with the 5 round columns. So they incorporated the original stopping point into the design as a nod to the history of the project. Then below that, really along the entire left side of the river, is our Riverwalk. The Chicago Riverwalk is a 1.3-mile-long riverfront trail. It was designed with the intention of turning our previously pretty gnarly, nasty waterfront into active public space. And it did that. Look at all that public over there. Now, the Riverwalk was thought of all the way back in 1909, part of the 1909 Burnham Plan of Chicago, a very cool document that we'll talk about later. But this part of that project, this part of the plan, unfortunately, the water of the river only started to get marginally less gross with the Clean Water Act of 1972. So construction on the Riverwalk did not even begin until 2003. Took us like 100 years to get started, but we did finally finish it in 2016, and it is well loved by Chicagoans and visitors alike. Now, up ahead on the right, we are approaching an absolutely massive limestone structure. This behemoth up ahead on our right is the Merchandise Mart. The Merch Mart was completed in 1930 to be the wholesale warehouse and trade showroom for the Marshall Fields department store. May it rest in peace. With 4.2 million square feet of floor space, this was the largest building on the planet at the time of its construction. At different points throughout history, this thing had its own zip code and its own fire station. It is also a pretty fantastic example of the Art Deco design style. Now, Art Deco, in a nutshell, is really all about these vertical racing stripes. They lead the eye up, they create vertical movement, and that makes sense for a design style from the 1920s. It's a time of movement, of growth, of luxury. That is all reflected here in the Mart. Now, this building also features these super weird green Pez dispenser looking things.
Wireless गाड़ी.
They do not dispense candy, which is a bummer. Those are tributes to the merchant princes, guys like Marshall Field, Montgomery Ward, Woolwork. If they ever turn them into real Pez dispensers, I think they should dispense Frank Gomez. That's just my opinion. No Chicagoans will get that one. Alright, now we're heading into actually my favorite part of the river, so welcome to
त्याला
my
दाखव
favorite
ट्रेन
spot.
दाखव
Welcome
मेट्रो
to
दाखव.
Wolf Point. Wolf Point is where the three branches of the Chicago River converge. We are on the main branch right now, the stem. The north branch is around this corner to the right. South branch is over here on the left. They meet right here to create a Y shape. I love this spot because it is home to my favorite building in the entire city of Chicago, which is over here. It is a blue reflective tower that gets smaller at the bottom. It is completely impossible looking, and I'm obsessed with it. This is 150 North Riverside, affectionately known as the Tuning Fork. It was completed in 2017 by a firm called Getch Partners, and before those guys showed up, nobody wanted to use this piece of land because it's actually awful. You've got active rail lines going along the entire back half of this plot, and there is a city-mandated 30-foot setback from the water for all new construction along the Chicago River. That leaves us a buildable area 39 feet wide. That's tiny, especially for a skyscraper. So they installed a core-supported building. Rock caissons go from the top all the way down to the bedrock, and the weight of these floors basically sort of hangs off of that core structure. All of that weight is then evenly distributed onto either side of these Y-shaped trusses here at the bottom. All of that force and weight is transferred into that original small footprint below. Now, I did tell you that this is my favorite building in Chicago, but I would be lying to you if I told you my favorite thing about it was anything other than the fact that this is the only selfie-optimized building on this tour. You can check out the reflection of our boat in its weird shape. That's my favorite feature, for obvious reasons. This building is also a really good example of exposed engineering. That's where the building kind of shows you how it works. The Y-shaped trusses that are necessary for this building to even exist in this spot, those trusses have formed the shape we see. Then we have another great example of that same exposed engineering trend up ahead on our left with this massive blue tower, the Bank of America building. See, this thing also had to deal with the city-mandated 30-foot setback from the water, but as you're about to see, they carved that part out. Left the building supports exposed next to the water. These giant metal chicken feet are also very clearly design elements. They're flashy, they're showy, they're lit up at night, and it makes perfect sense because the same firm that built this also built our tuning fork, our selfie opportunity back there. It's Getch Partners again. These guys love to show off. Now we're actually heading into another really cute little spot on the Chicago River. I lovingly call it the Art Deco Canyon because on either side of the bill, we've got stunning examples of the Art Deco design style. We're going to focus over to the right side of our canyon for now, hit the other side on the way back, because along the right side of the river, we see the evolution of American architecture through time. So, our first exhibit, our first stop on the timeline, on your immediate right, this is 2 Riverside Plaza. This one was completed in 1929. It was originally the Chicago Daily News building. First building in Chicago to be built facing The Chicago River, definitely Art Deco in style. And remember, this is a style reflective of the optimism of the time, when clearly nothing was about to go wrong. Everyone was going to be rich and happy forever. Now, later that same year, the stock market crashed, plunging us into the Great Depression. Shortly after that, we entered into our Second World War, effectively halting the progression of American architecture for about 25 years. By the time we were ready to return to commercial construction like this, it was an entirely new generation leading the way. These are the folks that grew up during the Great Depression, so they're practical, frugal, efficient. Those values are all reflected in the design style of Gateway Center 1 and Gateway Center 2. They are both that black box modernism style. It's that style pioneered by our friend from before, Mies van der Rohe. Now, Mies van der Rohe, he said of this style, he said, I don't want to be interesting, I want to be good. The way he saw it, buildings are good when they do what they set out to do as structures, full stop, not because they're trying to look like anything or be anything special to anyone. So, for this new generation of architects, ornamentation, decoration, that stuff is not the point. These guys want the beauty and the stability of utility and simplicity. So that's what we got. Over 40 of these simple black boxes in Chicago. But you do something enough, like 40 times maybe, you start to get sick of it. So eventually we wanted to push the envelope a little bit. We started putting up white boxes instead, like Gateway Center 3.
सुंदर बिल्डिंग आहे
Now officially, this style of building is called the International